Hello friends, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Devin, and today we're setting up a spicy reading journal. Sort of. More specifically, I should say that I'm starting a reading journal inspired by my newest discovery, SpicyBookTok. In general, I have been wanting to rebuild my reading habit, so the stationery lover in me thought, hey, let's start a reading journal. I decided I'd use my Archer and Olive dot grid journal to make my literary logs and such. I'll have links to the supplies I use for this setup down in the description box below, so be sure to check that out. I didn't have anything specific in mind for when I set up this reading journal other than I wanted it to be fairly simple and straightforward with room for the spreads to evolve as I continue to work through them. So you'll get to witness my go with the flow, intuitive planning process. Now, I do want to talk a little bit more about why I felt inspired to start this reading journal. For starters, I grew up absolutely loving books. It was one of my favorite ways to spend my time, and unfortunately, I just lost touch with this simple yet powerful joy over the years. I have plenty of fond memories of things like elementary school challenges to see who in our class would read the most that week, and more often than not, it came down to me and my best friend at the time, Jamie. We would lock eyes from across the classroom, determined to be that last reader standing. And I remember reading anywhere and at any chance I could get. I find it actually hilarious that I used to be able to read in the car as a passenger, whereas today I can barely drive myself around without getting a bit of motion sickness. I know, it's sad, but it's still very funny to me. Earlier this spring, I went out with my dad, and while I was waiting for him to finish up an errand, I meandered on over to a Barnes & Noble nearby and just felt instantly transported into this beautiful serenity of rows and rows of bookshelves with that oh so distinct smell of print on paper. I perused without anything specific in mind, just trying to kill some time, and found myself in utter peace. There has always been this sense of comfort when I pick up a good story, and feeling that heft and weight of binding pages in my hand, there's nothing like it. It's a whole other world at my fingertips, and I find it so exhilarating. I just remember feeling so much joy that day. So I left with 2 books and with every intention to reinstate the bookworm part of me. But to be honest, I had been dealing and I'm still dealing with so much of my own internal struggles and bouts of anxiety that the reading excitement started to fade again. And that's when I fell upon SpicyBookTok. So family, if you're watching this, please click out of this video or skip ahead. Just kidding, but also kind of serious. Anyway, that was your warning. Let me just say that I didn't know, now that we're gonna get into it, I didn't know romance books, aka spicy books, were what they are, or what some of them are anyway. They aren't for the faint of heart and can be very straightforward. Now, spicy books aren't going to be everyone's cup of tea, but hey, that could be said for any genre really. For me though, I'll admit, I am a fan. It's helped me get out of not only a reading slump, but out of a weird, anxious, driven state overall. So I gotta give credit where credit is due. Again, it's not gonna be for everyone, but I am here for it. In an attempt to sustain that spark and connection, we're here. That's why I wanted to start this reading journal. I did scroll through Pinterest and watch a few TikTok and YouTube videos to try to get some inspiration and direction for how I wanted to set this up. But I also have a track record, a past history, a past record of starting journals and not following through on them. And I think I love the idea of having journals for every specific thing in my life or certain interests, but it really can be so overwhelming and difficult to keep up with on top of everything else, that I'm doing in my life. So in order to make this as approachable as possible, I went with a standard little cover page, and we've got like the bread and butter, which is a TBR list as well as a monthly setup. So this is going to be my general TBR list. I decided to make two separate TBR lists, one for just miscellaneous catch-all list of books that I want to read, and then of course on the next page I'll be setting up a spicy / smutty TBR list. I don't know, I am so fascinated with this genre, and I can feel myself turning red, but you know what? This is real. This is me. I wanted to set up its own TBR list because I feel as though that list is going to grow a bit more rapidly than my general TBR. We'll see. I only set up 2 pages each, or a 2-page spread across each for both of those TBRs. And I thought about extending that out, but again, don't want to get too ahead of myself. I can always start another TBR spread when the time comes, and that's going to be my approach, is that if I miss something, I can always add it later. But in both of my TBR spreads, I created columns for the title, author, date started, date finished, as well as method of reading, whether it be a physical book or audiobook. I anticipate and would like for most of my TBR lists to fall in the physical book spectrum, but I've also enjoyed audiobooks during chores and afternoon walks, so I don't want to limit myself in that regard. Looking back at my setup, I kind of wish that I used this aesthetic or a similar theme for my table of contents on the previous pages, but I'm not gonna sweat it. In hindsight, I was warming up and I think I was only just starting to find my planning flow. To start, I only have a few titles on each of my TBR lists, so if you have any recommendations, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. I finally finished reading Ikigai, one of the 2 books I had picked up during that Barnes & Noble visit, and I'm now working on Anna Karenina, the other book from that trip. I started reading both of those back in May and fell off the reading train, unfortunately. So now that I'm setting up this reading journal, it's really important to me that I finish what I started. As a little sidebar, I started reading Anna Karenina again yesterday, picking up from where I had left off, and wow, I am already reinvested. I don't want to give anything away if you're going to read it, but if you have read it, I got to the part where Vronsky visits Anna before his race, and friends. When I say that my jaw dropped, I'm telling you, my jaw literally dropped. I was all curled up on the couch when I was reading, and my eyes flitted across the part where Anna tells Vronsky that jaw-dropping thing, and I immediately sat up and started looking around the room to see if anyone could see my reaction, knowing full well I was by myself. So I ended up staring at my dog Max, who was 100% uninterested in the fact that I read what I read. On my spicy / smutty TBR list, I have Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, which may or may not really be a spicy book from what I've heard. I've heard that it's not super spicy, but it'll be my first Coho book, and I thought that might be a good place to start. I also have The Deal by Elle Kennedy as the first book in the Off-Campus series, and Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, which I started but put back down for now only because I really want to finish reading Anna Karenina first. Am I the only one who has to like read one book at a time? I mean, I was kind of reading Ikigai and Anna Karenina at the same time, but I really prefer to focus on one. Then once it's finished, move on to the next, even if the books are in different genres. You guys gotta let me know if you're the same way, or if you are able to pull a Rory Gilmore and have a book for each mood. I also have Priest by Sierra Simone on my smutty TBR list, which I have started as an audiobook because I kept seeing comments on SpicyBookTok that Jacob Morgan, I think is his name, as a narrator. He is the cherry on the sundae, if you will. And I can tell you that so far, he does not disappoint. But before adding any of these spicy titles to your own TBR, please check for trigger warnings and make sure you're of appropriate age, 18 years or older. Just have to put that out there. The spread that I'm working on is my monthly reading log, and I think it's my favorite spread in this whole reading journal setup. I feel like I really found my flow here and achieved a nice balance of striving for an aesthetic looking spread while at the same time maintaining a simple setup that would be easy to replicate on the pages to come. I had some greeting cards that I showed earlier from Hearth and Hand that look like book ledgers, so I thought they would be perfect to use when recording and documenting what I read each month. Originally, when I set this up, I intended it for July, but now that the month is almost over, I may extend this reading log into August. On the pages that follow each monthly log, I plan to create a spread for each of the books I read to recap, rate, and review. So I'd like to share an update of how that looks and how it's all going in the future, so stay tuned. I'm so happy to be reading regularly again and look forward to really supplementing and enhancing that journey with this reading journal. I very much appreciate you spending your time with me today and look forward to more literary-led chats together in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to share it with a friend who you think might also enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe and to turn on those notifications. That way you don't miss any of our videos. I do my best to upload every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, so please take care until then. Thank you so much. I cannot say that enough, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.